begin with the Leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's give her.
Small but mighty. Last week, the Premier excused his government for the fiscal mess the province now sees itself in. When asked who is at fault, he told Albertans to look in the mirror.
Shame.
Now, if I were to hold up a mirror where I stand today, I see a principled opposition holding this government accountable for waste, entitlement, and bad management. If the Premier were to hold up a mirror right now, he'd see behind him the people directly responsible for the mess, his PC government. Will the Premier stand up, acknowledge what he sees in the mirror, and apologize to Albertans for blaming them for the mess his government created?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would similarly extend the courtesy of welcoming the Leader of the Opposition back to the Legislative Assembly for what I think has been a historic day in this chamber. Mr. Speaker, I take responsibility for what I say, whether it is in the media or whether it is in this chamber. As the honourable member knows, as members of her party know, as former members of her party know, I have been the harshest critic of former governments, and that is in fact why I'm here in this position. I intend to continue to serve Albertans. I intend to continue to take responsibility for what I say, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. First
First, the Premier blames Albertans for the provincial fiscal woes because it couldn't possibly be a series of bad decisions by the series of bad PC governments. Now his ego won't allow him to apologize for insulting the very Albertans who pay for the most expensive Premier's office in the country, the most expensive MLAs in the country, and the most expensive government in the country. Mr. Premier, a little humility goes a long way. The former Premier had to learn that lesson the hard way. I'll ask you again, will you apologize for the mess that you have occurred?
Just apologize.
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I take responsibility for what I have said. I will always take responsibility for what I have said. But the real issue is, what does the Leader of the Wild Rose Party have to say about the important issues that face Albertans today? What does she have to say about the fiscal issues that the government deals with on behalf of all Albertans? What indeed does she have to say, in truth, about the amendments to Bill 10 that have been put forward in this House today, Mr. Speaker? It's about being accountable on the significant issues that we face as Albertans. I look forward to hearing what the honourable member believes and is prepared to put forward.
Final supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, when Albertans hear about the Sky Palace outrageous severances for healthcare executives or sole source contracts to friends of the PC government, they rightfully get upset. Albertans already contribute more tax per capita than anywhere else in the country. Now, the Premier says all of that waste is the fault of Albertans, and now Albertans are going to have to pay. Premier, Albertans don't deserve to be made the scapegoats for the failing of your government, whether it's the past or the present. Just how much are you going to make Albertans pay for the mistakes of your government?
The Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can assure the honourable member that shortly after becoming the Premier of the province, together with the Minister of Finance, we eliminated the possibility of sole source contracts. It was one of the matters which I was a harsh critic of relative to the former government, which I spoke up about and which I changed when I became the Premier, Mr. Speaker. That's indicative of the sort of changes that we are making as a government. We face challenging financial circumstances. Alberta is tough. It is resilient. We will get through this. We'll get through this together, Mr. Speaker. But I look forward to hearing from the opposition the specific ideas that they have about how we can deal with maintaining core, quality frontline services and at the same time managing our situation fiscally responsibly.